Racist cop arrested a homeless man, but he was an FBI agent investigating the whole department. He looked like just another homeless black man sitting quietly on the ground, harmless, tired, ignored by society. But suddenly, a police officer walked up, pushed him to the pavement, and arrested him without a word. People stared, filmed, even laughed, thinking it was just another case of cleaning the streets. What no one knew was that this homeless man wasn't homeless at all. He was a highly trained FBI agent on a secret mission, and that arrogant racist cop had just triggered the investigation of a lifetime. Before the world saw him as a homeless man, his name was Marcus Reed. He was a dedicated FBI agent who had spent over 10 years investigating corruption, especially within police departments known for racial abuse. Off-duty, he lived a simple and disciplined life. He trained daily, studied case files at night, and carried the painful memories of growing up in a neighborhood where racism was a daily reality. Marcus never forgot how his own father had been mistreated by cops when he was a child. That memory became the reason he joined the FBI in the first place. To the outside world, he was calm, intelligent, and focused, the kind of man who stayed silent but noticed everything. When Marcus received intel about a particular police precinct with multiple complaints of brutality against black citizens, he volunteered for a deep undercover mission. He shaved his beard, wore old, torn clothes, and disappeared into the streets, living like a homeless man for weeks to learn their behavior up close. At first, people ignored him like he were invisible. That was exactly how he wanted it. He observed how certain officers harassed people of color, how they laughed while pushing them around, and how the system protected them every time. Marcus wrote everything down, captured every detail, waiting for the moment to expose them. What he didn't expect was that his final test would be more personal, more humiliating, and more dangerous than anything in his entire career. Days passed in silence as Marcus blended into Thessady's background. Every morning, he watched the same officers patrol the streets, laughing with each other, pushing around young black men for no reason, calling it routine. He stayed quiet, documenting their behavior, growing more disturbed by how normal it had become. The more he saw, the clearer it became. This wasn't just a few bad cops. It was a culture built on abuse and prejudice. One afternoon, he watched a young teenager get shoved against a wall for simply standing outside a store. The boy didn't resist, but the officer kept yelling and humiliating him. Marcus clenched his jaw and forced himself not to intervene. He needed to stay invisible. He needed to let the corruption expose itself. But inside, every moment was a battle between his mission and his human instinct to protect. The tension reached its peak during a late evening patrol. Marcus was sitting on a cold sidewalk near an alley, writing down notes on a small pad hidden inside his jacket. That's when he heard the sound of boots approaching. He kept his head down, but he felt the presence of someone hovering above. Him, the same aggressive officer he had been monitoring for days. The officer stared at him with disgust, clearly amused by the idea of asserting power over someone no one would defend. Marcus knew it was coming. The officer kicked his leg, nudged his side, waiting for a reaction. When Marcus refused to respond, the officer grabbed him by the collar and pulled him up, shouting insults, accusing him of loitering, drug dealing, whatever excuse could justify the harassment. Marcus stayed silent, letting the scene escalate exactly as his FBI handler predicted might happen. But what he didn't predict was the crowd forming around them, some watching with sympathy, others with hatred, and many recording with their phones. At that moment, Marcus felt something shift. This wasn't just an interrogation. It was a public humiliation fueled by racism. The officer handcuffed him and mocked him as if he were nothing. Marcus could hear the whispers from the crowd, but he kept his face blank, letting the plan continue. What no one realized was that federal agents were already nearby, waiting for Marcus's signal. But as the officer pushed him toward the squad car, Marcus realized that the situation was unraveling faster than he had planned, and one wrong move might get him killed before the truth came out. Prompt for climax. 7 to 9 minutes, 400 words. Right. A powerful climax section for a YouTube video about racism designed for an 8 to 12-minute storytelling format. This section should be between 220-430 words, or 2 to 3 minutes of narration. Deliver the most intense, emotional, or shocking moment of the story. Describe the turning point where the character faces the worst of the injustice or a life-altering moment. Use vivid, immersive storytelling to make the audience feel the emotions: fear, anger, helplessness, or hope. Maintain fast pacing to prevent drop-offs while maximizing emotional impact. End on a powerful line or cliffhanger to transition smoothly into the resolution. Example: the officer's hand tightened on his holster. "I said, hands up!" His breath came fast, heart pounding. He had done nothing wrong, but he had seen what happened to others. A single move, a misunderstanding, and he could be another headline. The world seemed to pause, sirens in the distance. A crowd is forming, phone recording. In that moment, he realized this wasn't just about him anymore. Would he make it out alive? Or would this be the moment the world finally saw the truth? The officer who had humiliated Marcus was immediately suspended, and within weeks, multiple high-ranking officials in the department were indicted. The footage taken by bystanders went viral, not because people knew Marcus was an FBI agent, but because it showed something painfully common: a black man treated like trash by someone who had sworn to protect and serve. For a moment, the world stopped to look. Protests formed. Demands were made. Marcus continued his work, but not without scars. Even though he had uncovered the truth, he couldn't forget the feeling of being treated as less than human just because of his skin color. It reminded him that even with a badge, education, and years of service, racism could still reduce a person's identity to nothing but a target. As he walked away from the precinct for the last time, Marcus thought about how many others never got justice, how many were still suffering in silence. He knew this case was just one victory in a much bigger fight. The mission had succeeded, but the world still needed to change, because in the end, it wasn't just about one officer or one department. It was about a system, and a question we all have to answer. How many more lives must be broken before we finally decide that enough is enough? If you stand for justice, then like this video and subscribe to the channel. Follow us for more powerful true stories.